It is a quiet Sunday evening. You are sitting in an empty, climate-controlled apartment. The doors are locked, the fridge is full of calories, and you are safer than any ancient king. Yet, a heavy, irrational panic begins to set in. A hollow ache in the chest. This is not a personality flaw. It is an ancient evolutionary alarm. Your brain is flooding your bloodstream with stress hormones, screaming that you are in immediate, life-threatening danger. We traded physical armor for neurochemical tethers, binding our survival to the tribe. Tonight, we will uncover why being alone feels like dying. We have engineered bizarre habits to soothe this primal dread. We leave televisions running in empty rooms and play podcasts we are not actively listening to. These are acoustic phantoms. We are synthetically simulating the auditory baseline of a bustling tribe to pacify our lizard brains. Without these phantom voices, the profound silence of modern independence feels suffocating. Society tells us this is the golden era of personal time. But evolution does not care if you are happy. It only cares if you survive. Chronic loneliness often brings a shadow companion. Fragmented, shallow sleep. In the modern world, insomnia is treated as a medical nuisance. But through the lens of human history, it makes perfect, terrifying sense. Without a tribe to stand watch in the dark, the isolated human remains in a low-grade state of nocturnal arousal. Your brain refuses to fully power down because it believes no one is guarding the perimeter. You are physically exhausted, but biologically trapped in a state of high alert. To understand the sheer panic of this isolation, we must look backward. Homo sapiens are a comically vulnerable species. We lack the thick hides of the rhinoceros, the raw muscle mass of the Neanderthal, and the venom of the viper. We are slow, bipedal, naked bags of water and calories. On the ancient African savannah, a solitary human was not a rugged pioneer. A solitary human was simply meat. Our singular, world-conquering survival strategy was cooperative sociality. We hunted in packs, shared child-rearing, and guarded the fire together. Transport yourself back to the Pleistocene epoch. The darkness of the ancient savannah was absolute and terrifying. The sensory boundary of a human world was the flickering edge of the campfire. Beyond that thin veil of light lay the domain of false saber-toothed cats, giant hyenas, and rival hominid bands. Imagine the scent of wood smoke, roasting marrow, and unwashed bodies. It was a claustrophobic but profoundly comforting olfactory baseline. The smell of life. The smell of absolute safety. To fall asleep hearing the steady breathing of 20 other humans sleeping shoulder to shoulder was the sound of guaranteed survival. To wake up and hear nothing but the wind blowing through the tall grass was the sound of impending death. If you wandered away from the firelight, you could not sleep without being hunted. You could not scavenge enough calories to survive alone. An untreated twisted ankle was a definitive death sentence. Evolution needed a mechanism to prevent you from making that fatal mistake. So the brain weaponized emotional agony. It engineered loneliness as a form of biological torture. The exact same way physical pain evolved to make you pull your hand out of a burning fire, loneliness evolved to make you pull your psyche away from the edge of isolation. In the ancient world, there was no such thing as finding yourself in the wilderness. If you broke the social rules and were banished, you experienced a living death. To be ostracized was to be condemned to the dark forever. The modern brain still interprets social exclusion as a capital offense. This is not metaphorical poetry. In a landmark neuroimaging study, researchers discovered that being excluded from a simple group activity activates the dorsal anterior cingulate cortex. This is the exact same brain region that processes the raw distress of physical pain. Evolution literally piggybacked the agony of loneliness onto the neural circuitry used for physical lacerations and broken bones. When you say you feel crushed or gutted by rejection, your brain is processing it as an actual bodily injury. Anthropological evidence supports this deeply. The social brain hypothesis demonstrates that the unusually large size of the human neocortex evolved primarily to handle the complex computational demands of living in massive, cooperative groups. We did not grow big brains just to invent tools or master fire. We grew them to keep track of friendships, alliances, and complex social debts. Our entire neurological baseline is dependent on the presence of others. Frustrating this drive produces severe psychological pathology. The human mind was built solely for the collective. This desperate need for connection predates humanity itself. Decades of research on female baboons reveal a stark, brutal math. The infants of highly social baboons have significantly higher survival rates than those of less social females. Long before we had complex language or fire, social integration was the most direct, measurable metric for staying alive. Ancient mammals repurposed existing biological alarms to prevent mothers and infants from separating. That ancient mammalian panic still runs quietly in our veins today. Loneliness is an aversive biological state, exactly like hunger or thirst. It is an alarm bell designed to promote self-preservation. When humans detect social exclusion, even within milliseconds, it immediately threatens our deepest needs for belonging and control. We enter a state of subconscious hypervigilance. The isolated person develops an attentional bias towards social threats. They are constantly, biologically on guard, scanning the empty room for predators that do not actually exist. We have engineered a modern society that runs completely contrary to our deep evolutionary coding. For 300,000 years, to be alone was a horrifying, fatal anomaly. Today, the single occupancy apartment is sold to us as a hallmark of modern independence and financial success. We view this profound isolation as an achievement, but our ancient DNA views it as a horrific emergency. This creates a devastating evolutionary mismatch. The environment has been thoroughly domesticated and sanitized, but the human survival instinct remains completely wild and untamed. Because the isolated brain genuinely believes it is under imminent threat of predation, it initiates a constant, low-level fight-or-flight response. The lonely brain floods the body with a heavy dose of cortisol. In ancient times, this chemical kept you awake and alert, so you would not be eaten while separated from the hunting party. But in the modern world, chronic cortisol exposure degrades the hippocampus, induces deep depression, and leads to severe cardiovascular disease. Your own survival instinct is quietly killing you. The biological toll gets even stranger. Chronic subjective loneliness actually alters DNA transcription in human immune cells. The isolated brain assumes a physical attack by a predator is imminent. Therefore, it dials up inflammation to fight the bacterial infections that will inevitably come from predator bites and untreated wounds. At the exact same time, it dials down your antiviral responses. Because if you are wandering alone in the wilderness, you are not exactly at risk of catching a viral infection from the tribe. Your body physically prepares for blood. This ancient preparation for physical wounding is why loneliness leaves a devastating physical residue. Today, this biological protocol results in an epidemic of chronic inflammation and heightened susceptibility to modern viruses. Massive medical reviews analysing hundreds of thousands of individuals have proven a grim reality. Lacking social connections is as dangerous to your physical health as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. It is more lethal than obesity or chronic physical inactivity. The phantom wounds of isolation are very real. We must finally dismantle the romanticized concept of total independence. To be human is to be fundamentally tethered to the collective. we traded away our physical self-sufficiency to conquer the planet together. By solving the problem of ancient predation, we created a permanent, inescapable vulnerability to social isolation. The quiet Sunday evening in an empty apartment is not merely boring. To the ancient architecture of your mind, it is staring directly into the edge of the abyss. We are ghosts of the African savannah, wearing modern clothes, drinking modern coffee, and staring at modern screens. Yet we are still frantically listening for the sounds of a tribe that is no longer there. The panic of loneliness is not a personal weakness. It is the very instinct that kept our ancestors alive long enough to make us human.